I am tired of the lies, and I'm tired of women falling for these lies. Hello, my name's Matthew Coast, and I am here to set the record straight. If you're ready to hear 5 common lies that men tell women, type yes into the chat and let's get started. So, lie number 1, going over lie number 1 is the I only feel a real connection through sex lie. And so it is possible that this is true, but just imagine this for a minute, right? All the great, intimate, amazing moments that you have together with a man, and he doesn't feel anything. His cold heart doesn't feel anything because the only way he feels a connection is through hooking up together, right? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, what are we even really talking about here? What are we talking about? Right? Like, oh, I only feel a connection if, we take all of our clothes off and we run around the room and squawk like a chicken. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. Don't believe it. Don't believe the lie. If a guy tells you that, just tell him that, the only way that you feel a connection is when somebody hands you large sums of money, and that you're just not going to feel a connection unless somebody does that. And in reality, you should just leave a guy alone. Any guy that tells you this is manipulating you. He doesn't have your best interests at heart. Do not believe this lie. Say hi and tell us where in the world you're watching this from. If you're watching us right now, it's cool to see so many women in the chat saying hi, telling us where they're watching us from. All over the world. We have women all over the world doing this. All right, number 2. Number 2 is the I'm going to leave her lie. This is so common right now. I get so many women that come to us and they're like, "Oh, I'm dating this married man, but he told me that, and it's this kind of this laundry list of different things that guys tell women when they're married and they're trying to hook up with the woman anyway and hang out with her. And it's like, oh, we live in separate bedrooms, and we don't really, there's no real intimacy time between us. We don't really care about each other, blah 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 blah. A lot of that is probably a lie. Some of it might not be. Who knows? But either way, a quality man, a high quality man, is never going to cheat on his girlfriend or wife. He's never going to do it. Okay. Why? Because most people live in patterns. If this guy is a quality man, he'll get divorced. He'll leave his girlfriend. He'll do all that before he starts trying to hang out and hook up with you. People live in patterns. Always remember, people live in patterns. The best prediction of somebody's future behavior is their past behavior. What this means is that if he's cheating on someone in order to be with you, it means that he's probably going to be cheating on you in the future in order to be with someone else. And you don't want to be in that pattern of his. And most men simply don't leave the one that they're with, especially if they're married. The fantasy and the dream is usually a lot more enticing to these guys than the reality of being with you. And just because you have a crush on a guy doesn't mean that you should date him. Doesn't mean you should date him. Don't do it. Don't do it. Number 3, lie number 3 is I don't know what I want. And this is also, I'm confused. I don't know what I want. I'm so confused, right? It's if a guy's been with you for 6 months or more, he knows definitively. They've done studies on this. He knows definitively what kind of a relationship he ultimately wants to have with you. And I mean, if it's before that, sure, maybe he doesn't know what he wants with you. But if it's after that, he does know. And I see women with guys that've been with him for years. He still doesn't know what he wants. He still doesn't know. He's still confused, right? And then he runs off after they break up and gets married in 6 months or whatever, because the reality is that you weren't the one for him and he's not the one for you. And so if a guy's confused, he doesn't know what he wants, all that kind of stuff, just let him go with that, right? It's either that, if he says that, he's either lying to you because he's afraid that of how you are going to react to him, because he knows that when he tells you the truth, you're going to do something that he really doesn't like, or he's really just lying to himself. Either way, waiting around and hoping that he figures himself out and figures out what he wants, it rarely works. It rarely works. So number four is the I'm single lie. And so he's always busy on weekends, or maybe, most evenings he's busy. He just doesn't have time. He's got other things going on. He's completely radio silent, dead cold in the water during the weekends or during the evening. So what's happening? Most likely he's living with another woman. If he tells you that he's single, but he acts like he's kind of hiding something, he's probably hiding something. So if you're not sure if something is weird or not, there's a bunch of different ways that you can look at it, right? The first one, and one of the most important things, is consistency over time. You want to see consistency over time, right? Over time, is it always like this? Is he always weird? Is this a pattern that he's in? And is there something else to be concerned about? Right? Another way of doing it is actually joining a community like our community. We have a great community on Facebook, or joining one of my programs like the Forever Woman program and talking to a coach about it and asking them what they think is going on, and they can help you kind of navigate what's going on in your situation. Either our community or the coach can help you navigate your situation and give you some real feedback on what's going on, because a lot of times it's difficult to know what's going on when you're inside the picture frame. It's hard to see the whole picture when you're inside of it. And so it can be good to have a third person perspective, or multiple third person perspectives. So I suggest you join our community. If you get what I'm talking about here, say I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, go ahead and ask whatever questions you have, or you can just ask any questions you have anyway, and I will be hitting those questions up here in just a minute. So lie number five is the I love you lie. And I just want to let you know, not all guys are lying when they talk to you, right? And they tell you things, right? Or not all guys are lying to you when they tell you that they love you. However, there are certain situations that you want to be smart about, and you want to make sure that you're getting yourself into the right situation. And if it's there, it's kind of a red flag. And one of them is when a guy tells you that he loves you way too early, right? Like, he tells you that he loves you and you've only been on one date, or maybe you haven't even met each other yet, right? And he loves you. We see this all the time in our community, especially with scammers doing this to women. But if he's professing his love to you and you've only known him for a little bit, that's a huge red flag, because it's either one, he's a scammer, or two, he has some kind of like severe mental and emotional issues, probably some kind of like childhood trauma issues, or past relationship issues, or disconnect with him and his parents, where he didn't feel loved when he was younger, and so he's constantly striving and fighting for love and attention and affection, and he gets overly attached way too quickly. And he needs to work on that and figure that stuff out before having a real relationship, because it can be really difficult to get into a healthy relationship if you're coming from that space. And so many women end up falling for this, and they sleep with a guy quickly because of it, because the guy says, oh, I love you, right? And then they hook up with him quickly or whatever. And then the guy ends up disappearing or whatnot, because he was just saying it for attention. He was saying it because he just wanted to hook up with you and he knew that you'd fall for it. He was saying it because, whatever. And so with all of these things that I'm talking about here, you want to look at his actions and his words over time. That's why it's so important. I think people are jumping into relationships way too quickly these days. They're just jumping into hooking up with people, and they only known them for a day. Is it possible that you meet a guy and you hook up with him on the first night and you end up in a great marriage with him and he's, the perfect guy for you and you're evenly matched and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it's possible. It's also possible to win the lottery and get struck by lightning and all kinds of other things. And the likelihood of it happening, though, is really, really, really low. And so, and my suggestion, if you want to get into a great situation, is that you make sure that you're putting yourself in a great situation. You look for the right things. You wait over time and make sure that you're getting into a situation that's healthy, that you're meeting people that are healthy, that you're not just jumping into bed with people, because that's what our culture and our society is doing right now. If you want something real, right? You want something real. If you don't want anything real, you can kind of do whatever you want. But so what are some lies that you've heard men tell women before? What have you heard? Type them into the chat. Let us hear what you've heard before. I'm going to go over the 5 again, and then I'm going to hit questions. So whatever questions you have, go ahead and type them in, and I will get to them in the order that they were received. So number 1 is I only feel connected through sex. Number 2 is I'm going to leave her. Number 3 is I don't know what I don't know what I want, right? Number 4 is I'm single and he's not. Number 5 is the I love you lie, which isn't always a lie, right? Some people, they actually are in love, and I talk about how to decipher that in different videos on this channel. But you want to make sure that you're getting yourself into a good situation. So you want consistency over time. So what are some other lies that you've heard men tell that that you can tell us about, right? What are some other common lies that you've heard from men? Maybe there's some common lies that you've told men before that you can tell us about in your chat. Trish says, I'll massage your back. Is that that's a lie that you get a lot, Trish? Oh, yeah. Jay Jordan says, hi, Matt. Thanks for all that you do. You are welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Odessa, Texas. Yep. So what kind of questions do you have? Questions. Hello. XYZ, I love the name, says, Matt, you are pretty good and I love your advice and they are to the point and straightforward. Well, you are welcome. I'm glad you like it. Alpha F says, oh my God, I got you live. Hi, Matthew, and hi, ladies. First time commenting. Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Alpha F. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, so hello. All right, get into some questions here. Char says, girls, please stop believing married men. They will never leave their wife for you. It's like this argument that we've been having on this channel. There was a video that I did about all the reasons that you shouldn't date a married man. And like, we literally got like into like arguments on the live stream from women that wanted to continue dating these married men. It was so weird. It's so weird. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. Yeah, exactly. It's like he probably told his wife he would never cheat on her either. Exactly. Just don't do it. Clara says, I really impacted by your vision, your wisdom. You have given strength to make high value decisions in my romantic life. Well, that's good to hear, Clara. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. You are awesome. You are awesome. You are awesome. Let's see. What do we have? Kimberly says, my love interest told me he isn't ready for a relationship and that he is emotionally unavailable, but I know he just doesn't see me in a romantic way. I'm still trying to move on. It sucks, but it's good to hear. It's good to know what's going on and just say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna move forward here, and I'm gonna create a brighter future. I'm gonna create something better, and that's where you want to be, Kimberly, because if you lose sight of this future this brighter future, this world that you can live into, this relationship that you're going to have one day. If you lose sight of that, it's really easy to get depressed and upset and have issues and get angry and beat yourself up and all that kind of stuff. But if you look forward and you look out on the future and you see a beautiful, bright future, it's easy to deal with whatever challenges that might come up for you right now. And so that's my suggestion, is make sure that you have a brighter future, that you have a beautiful future that you're living into, that you're attracting, that you're creating, that you're designing by what it is that you ultimately want. And as long as you can look forward and see a bright future, you can keep going in that direction. You'll feel great about yourself. Robin says, "Hi, Matthew from Arizona. Love your information and programs. I'm trying to learn as much as I can and making it work with my LDR. He doesn't lie, but great info for the future." You are welcome. You are welcome. Clara says, "I asked him in my 3 time that I meet up with him that about what his intentions about dating are with us. With it was about less than a month seeing each other. He said he was not sure about because bad experience." Yeah, I mean, he's not, a lot of guys, they might not know, right? And like in the first couple of months. And so that's why, I talk about this. And it's like, if he looks at you and he doesn't know, and that's fine, right? It's normal. He doesn't know you, right? When you guys met a couple times, you go on a few dates, you know, maybe he's excited, maybe he's not. He might not totally be sure in that first period of time, right? If it's been 6 months or longer, he's sure. If it's been less than 6 months, he might not be sure, and that's fine. That's okay. That doesn't mean he's a bad guy or anything. It just means that you shouldn't overvalue him. It means that you shouldn't overinvest in him. It means that you shouldn't put him on a pedestal. You shouldn't think, oh, this is a very common one that I've been getting a lot of, is women coming and being like, oh, he's my soulmate, right? And what does that mean when you say that a man is your soulmate, right? I had a woman today who is in our community who was talking about this married man who is her soulmate. She's like, "Oh, there's this married man and he's my soulmate, but he's not talking to me." And it's like, what are you doing when you call him your soulmate? You're putting him on a pedestal. You're making him this really valuable thing, right? He doesn't see you the same way. Otherwise, he'd be leaving his wife. Otherwise, he'd be, like wanting to hang out with you and talking to you and being with you all the time and being in a relationship with you and taking you off the dating market and not seeing anybody else. That's how you know a guy values you. And if a guy isn't valuing you, that's fine, right? If he's not sure about you, that's fine. Don't take him that seriously. That's all you're doing, is you're making sure that you're putting yourself into a good position and you're not overvaluing and you're not overinvesting and you're not falling in love with and getting attached to guys who aren't valuing you and guys who aren't serious about you. It's fine if he's not serious about you. Maybe you guys can be friends for a while. And if he decides he wants something with you, that's great. And if not, that's fine too. You're going to find somebody who's great for you. And hopefully one day he'll get over himself and find somebody that's great for him. That's fine. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. I kind of ran off on a tangent there, Clara. Does that make sense, Clara? If you haven't checked it out, go check out my program at The Forever Woman, theforeverwomanformula.com. Check it out. Check it out. Is it showing up here? Gail says, "I've heard it called the weekend bubble when they are married or in a relationship and they disappear and are a ghost on the weekends and come back out after a week starts, then go away on Friday." Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that's possible, right? Some people only spend time with their spouse on the weekends because during the week they're working and all that kind of other stuff. And so it's definitely something. I mean, if you've been dating a guy for a while and he doesn't hang out with you on the weekends, that's a red flag, right? It's like, what are you doing on your weekends, right? Why are you not trying to have me be a part of your weekends, even though we've been dating for a while, right? Those are the thoughts that should come up in your mind. And that's why it's always important, especially in the early dating phases, not to overvalue men, not to get overly attached to men. Don't do it, right? That's why it's so important to date in abundance. Date in abundance. I talk about it in detail in my program, The Forever Woman. Get it at theforeverwomanformula.com for free. Check it out. Check it out. But yeah, it's good information, Gail. Thanks. So Maria says, how do you know they really want to marry? Well, how you know they really want to marry is they will usually go out and buy a ring, and they will get down on one knee and they will put that ring on your finger. It's the left hand. It's the ring finger on the left hand. That's the one that they put it on. And when he does that, you know that he really wants to marry you. And before that, it's all really just speculation, right? And that's why before that, what you're looking for is words. Here's his words and here's his actions. You want him to be in alignment, right? I don't know. Is this alignment? This is alignment right here. So you want him to be in alignment, words and actions, and you want it over time. And so if words and actions, if he's like, hey, you know what, like, yeah, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, and, I'm looking to get married and all that kind of stuff, he might be, but you don't know, until you've known him over time. And then over time, assuming that his words and his actions are in alignment, then you get a pretty good deal. You're a pretty good idea of what's going on. And then he slips that ring on your finger and you're like, he really wants to get married. And that's how you know. Up until that, it's just talk until he does it. And once he does it, then you know. But if he's saying the opposite, right? If he's saying that he doesn't want those things, then you can be pretty sure that he doesn't want those things. But if he does say that he wants those things, make him prove it. Make him earn it. Make him show you that he's serious about you. That's what you want. That's what you want. Zulina says, hi, wow, I can't believe I caught you live even though I'm late. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Mary says, same old lies. You would think they would upgrade the lies in 50 years. Now, I mean, if it keeps working, they keep doing it, right? If it keeps working, they keep doing it. If it keeps working, they keep doing it. Rachel says, so how long is the right time to hear I love you? That's a great question, Rachel. And it's different with everybody. It's different with everybody. And so it's one of those things where you don't want to force it. Like we had a woman in the community not too long ago who went in there and she's like, I told this man that I loved you and he like gave me a hug. It's like, oh God, and yeah, that sucks because you wanted to hear I love you back, but you didn't, but at the same time, it shouldn't be an exchange, right? And so he's got to feel it. He's got to feel like he loves you. And some guys don't really express verbally those kinds of things. They express it through their actions or through different things. And so it really depends on the person. I mean, it's really hard to know whether somebody actually, like when somebody should say it. I mean, it could be different with every single person. But if you've been dating some guy for, a year or something like that, and he's still not saying it, is he showing you that he loves you? Is there other indications there that maybe he loves you other than just him saying it? That's what you want to look for. You want to make sure that you're being treated well. You want to make sure that you're communicating how you like to be expressed to, the things that you care about and being loved and all that kind of stuff. And as long as he knows it, and that's really what you want to look for. I mean, there are different ways to like get him to say it. If you're suspicious, you're like, oh, I think he loves me, but he's just not saying it, right? There are ways to do it. I talk about it in my different videos, like the accusation way, accusing him of loving you. I know you love me. I know you love me. You just hiding it, boy. You gonna come out with it sooner or later, right? You can do that stuff. Actually works. Actually works pretty well. Maybe not saying it like that, but hopefully you get my drift. Hopefully you get my drift. Angela says, "You're my soulmate." Okay. Mary Jo says, "I had to work late to help my boss." Well, yeah, is that the these are the lies. These are the lies guys are telling. Yep, had to work late to help my boss. Madison says he loved me for over 4 years. Christmas Eve he ghosted me. I'm shattered as he couldn't have loved me and left like this. That sounds really sad, Madison. That sounds really sad. Helen says, "You the best person I ever met." Maybe that's another lie she's talking about. Aliana says, "What means I am full of you?" This is kind of confusing to me. Well, I'm not sure what the context is, Eliana, but if anything, right? Like when all right, I think I'm back. I think I'm back here. I think we're back. I think I'm back here. All right, yep, we're back. All right, so Seema says, "Hey Matt, excited to catch my first live watching you from Manchester, England, soaking up all your tips." Well, thanks for being here. Kathy says, "Is this live?" It is. Yep. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, married men are to be avoided. So Indri says, "How to react if a man says he is married after 1 year living together, he back to wife and finish with her completely, and now says he loves me but still scared to meet up." Well, Indri, if a guy, says that he's married and, he went back to his wife And I'm not sure. I think that's what you're saying, is that he's married, and that he went back to his wife, and now I don't know. But if he's scared to meet up with you and he's married, just leave him alone, right? He needs to get divorced and leave his wife, and then come over and start dating you. That's the situation that you want to be in. You don't want to be in a situation where you're dating married men. Married men are not the right people to date. Anyone who's married, don't date that person. Don't date them. Leave them alone. Just leave them alone completely. They're not for you. They've got other things going on. Just leave them alone. Does that make sense, Injury? Just leave married men alone. There's so many single people out there. Most people are single. Like, most people are single, so date one of them. Date one of the single people. Leave married men alone. Not sure how to be more clear on that. Madison says, if a man shares with you that he cheated once, but can't say he would not cheat on me, is that a red flag? He said he doesn't have a crystal ball. Yes, that is a massive, giant red flag. That is a bucket of red flags. He took a big bucket of red flags and he threw them around the room, and they're like flying down like in front of you. And you're like, are these red flags? Am I looking at red flags right now? Yes, Madison, you are looking at red flags. Those are giant red flags that you want to avoid at all costs. He doesn't have a crystal ball. If he can't tell you, if he can't look you in the eyes and say, I'm not going to cheat on you, then absolutely, that is massive red flag. That means that he has no honor. He's not a man of his word. He will do whatever he wants to do, and you are going to be the pain that's associated. You're going to experience all the pain that's associated to him just doing whatever he wants to do. That he is a man without morals. That's who you're talking to right now, Madison. Stop talking to him. Stop talking to him. Amelia says, what do you do when you've been with a guy a year and the relationship only made baby steps, but you feel like he's straining you along? Well, if you've been with a guy for a year, you can stop all the hints and the looking for things, right? And, is this going the right direction? All that kind of stuff. And you can have real conversations with him. And if you don't like the way that those conversations are going, then you don't have any obligation to stay with that man, right? So if a guy's like, you feel like he's stringing you along, but you don't really know, and you've been with him a year, you need to talk to him about it. You need to have real conversations with him about it. Have you had an exclusivity talk? Have you had a commitment talk? Have you had any of those kinds of things? And if you haven't, those are giant red flags. If you've been with a guy for a year and he hasn't had any of those conversations with you, it's giant red flags. It's giant red flags, right? And there's a lot of people that want to be in those kinds of situations. There are a lot of women who are happy in those kinds of situations. And so don't expect that a guy needs to or should have any of these conversations with you, or that things should be moving along, because there's a lot of guys and a lot of women who don't want things to move along. But if you do want things to move along, you need to make that very, very clear, especially if you've been together for an entire year. You need to make that crystal clear. And not only crystal clear, but you need to get feedback on where this is actually going with him. And if he says anything other than that he's taking you to the relationship that you want to go to, you need to cut things off with him, start dating other people, and find a guy who's actually going to take you to the relationship that you want. It's one of the things that I talk about in my program, The Forever Woman, is this concept of changing your mindset from going from this place of, I need this man, to I'm going for this relationship and I'm looking for a man that's going to take me to this relationship. And if he's not willing to take you to that relationship, that's fine. you'll find a man who does, because you're not overvaluing any one man. And it sucks because you've been with this guy, Amelia, already for a year, and that you haven't had any of these conversations, it sounds like, and that things are taking baby steps and all that kind of stuff. You're not you're not obligated to wait around. I don't even know if you guys are in a relationship. He might still consider you guys dating, right? There are women in our community that have been with a man for 10, 12, 15 years, and the guy only saw them as dating. He never had the exclusivity talk, they never had the relationship talk, right? One point in time at the very beginning, he was like, "Oh, I'm not looking for anything serious." But he started acting like he was looking for something serious. And so the women were like, "Oh, well, he was just saying that back then. He's changed his mind." But they didn't actually have the conversation with him. And then to find out from the guy that guys don't see relationships the same way that women do. Guys don't see steps, progression towards a relationship the same way that women do. Guys look at relationships, and most of them either are in or they're out. They're not, we're moving this thing slowly towards this relationship. It's, we're either in this thing or we're not in this thing. That's how most guys see it. And so you need to have a conversation with him about whether he's mentally actually in this or whether he's not. Because if he's not, that's fine. That's something that you need to know, though, so that you can move on with your life and find a guy who is actually going to be serious and does actually want to have the same thing that you want to have. Does that make sense, Amelia? It's very important. It's very, very important. Jay Jordan says, "Matt, this is off topic, but recently I quit all online dating. I wasn't meeting any men worth spending time with, in my opinion. What are the best ways besides dating apps to meet quality men?" Well, there are a whole bunch of different ways, right? One is through bars and clubs, if you're into that scene, which a lot of people aren't, because bars and clubs honestly kind of suck. And so if you're not into those kinds of scenes, there's a huge variety of different ways that you can meet guys. One is through something that I call force friends, which is community activities. So anytime you can get involved in community activities, there's lots of different communities out there, and there are tons of communities. And most people that are single and looking will go to communities to find other people who are single and looking. And so any kind of community that you can get involved in will usually have these kinds of people. So there are gym communities you can join. You can join meetup groups. You can go join personal growth seminar communities. Those are great ones. There's usually tons of people looking for other people in those communities. There's just tons of different communities that you can join like that can help you. The other way, if you're like, hey, I want to meet people in person, like in the daytime, real time, it's a little bit different as a woman than it is for a man, because as a man you just walk up and you start talking to people, which you can do as well as a woman. It's just a little bit a different thing. One of the things that you want to start developing is the like an outgoing personality. You can develop it, right? Like, I'm an introvert. I have an outgoing personality when I want to have an outgoing personality. And it's because I developed it, right? It literally took me years to develop like an outgoing personality, which it doesn't normally take that long, especially for women. Women are usually better in social things because they've lived their whole lives. As a man, if you're like an introvert and you're not like trying to hang out with people, you could spend years by yourself alone, and like nothing's going to happen, right? But for most women are more communal. They're more relationship oriented. So there's a high probability chance that you have a more social skills than the average loner introvert man has, like I did when I was growing up. And so what you want to do is just start talking to people, though. Just get into the habit of talking to people anywhere and everywhere. Go to restaurants, go to grocery stores, and just talk to people. Just start conversations with people all over the place. Just say hi, give people compliments. Look guys in the eye. look away, smile, flirt with them a little bit, right? Go to coffee shops. Coffee shops are a great place that you can meet people. That's a really fun one that you can go to. Other ones, if you want, you can go to a park, right? Like I'm in Austin right now, and I was talking to these women here, and there's this woman, and she was telling me that every single time she goes out in public, she gets approached by men, right? She goes to Whole Foods, she gets approached by men. She goes out in the park, she gets approached by men. And I was like, and so I started asking her a little bit about it, because I wanted to know more about how she does that, right? Because this is my job and this is what I do. And so what she's told me is, because I'm like, do you ever go and approach guys? Do you ever go and talk to guys? And she's like, no, I never have to. I just, I look at them. I give them looks. Sometimes I'll smile at them. Sometimes I'll, just, do little flirty things, right? And then the guy comes over and starts talking to me, which is totally normal, right? That's what most guys are looking for when they look at women, is if a guy looks at you, he's sitting there in his mind thinking, should I go over and approach this woman? Right. Because if he's in let's say you live in a big city, if he's in a big city, he might see attractive women that he'd want to go and approach, 10 times in a day or more. Right. And he probably doesn't approach any of them. Right. He probably doesn't approach any of them. He probably only approaches every once in a while when he's either really attracted to a woman, or he thinks that the interaction is going to go really, really well. And so what most guys will do is they'll look for clues or signals from the woman that things are going to go well. And so what you want to do is just go to areas where there's a lot of traffic. Right. So I'm in Austin, Texas right now, and there's this area up north. It's called the Domain. Right. And the Domain has like these little kind of shops. Right. There's like this smoothie shop that a lot of people go and walk by and walk tours, and there's a Starbucks right next to it, and there's kind of this space, and you can just walk by there, right? And if you're a guy and you're walking by there and you see a beautiful woman that you want to go and talk to, you're probably going to go look at her. And if she doesn't give you any cues or anything, most guys are probably just going to continue walking by. However, if you're there or you're walking there or whatever, and you see a guy and he sees you and you look at him and you smile, he's probably going to, if he's attracted to you and he's interested and he's got courage, he's probably going to come over and start talking to you. It might take him a second, like, wait, because most guys, especially during the daytime, they don't have they're not like I'm going to go and approach women mode. And so it might take him a second, like, whoa, did that girl just smile at me? Was she looking at me? Right. And so he might take him a second to figure it out. And then he'll look at you and go over and talk. But it's those are really good areas to go to. Any kind of high traffic area, any kind of area where there's a lot of people going through, and maybe there's some seats or whatever, and you can take a seat at one of those places and just kind of hang out and read a book or whatever, listen to something. But you want to make it as easy as possible for the initial stages, right? The initial stages, people talk about playing hard to get, and there's a lot of value to this whole idea of playing hard to get, which is, make it so that he has to invest, make it so that he has to earn you and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really good. However, at the very beginning, you want to get him hooked first, because once he's hooked, then it makes a lot more sense for him to start putting in energy and effort and all that kind of stuff. But before he's hooked, it's for most guys, there's a kind of this huge barrier to going over and talking to a woman. Does she want me to talk to her? Is she going to tell me that I'm harassing her, which a lot of guys have experienced, right? Or seen videos about guys experiencing it or whatever. And so you want to make it easy in those first initial stages for a guy to come over and start talking to you and start up a conversation. You want to have good conversations. You want to talk to him. You want to ask him about himself. You want to do all those kinds of things, because that's what, to a guy, when he comes over and approaches you and starts talking to you, says, I'm welcome here and I'm allowed to have this conversation, and she's interested in having more of a conversation, and all that kind of stuff. When a guy comes over and approaches you and starts talking to you, in his mind, what he tries to figure out is, does she like this? Is she attracted to me? Does she want to continue talking to me? Is this okay? Would she reject me if I asked her for her number and wanted to meet up with her later, right? Or whatever. And so the things that you can give him to show him that you're interested is, one, ask him what his name is, ask him about himself, laugh at his jokes and things that he says to you, flirt with him a little bit. Those things will tell him that this is okay. She wants me to move this thing forward, and it's okay for me to move this thing forward. And then once he starts getting hooked, it's a lot easier for him to start building up momentum and all that kind of stuff around it. And so I kind of ran off on a tangent there, Jay Jordan, but there's tons of different places that you can go. If you just want to meet people, go to high traffic areas during the day that have a lot of people there, and smile, make eye contact with guys that you're interested in. And the other way that you can do it is going to those communities. Those are really the two best ways. And make sure you pick up a copy of my program at theforeverwomanformula.com. You can get it for free. You can get it for free. You can get it for free. Yep. Okay. Rosie says, been dating a guy almost 2 years and it ain't going nowhere. Well, that is for sure. It sounds like that is a for sure thing, that it's not going nowhere. Petra says, been with guy 19 years. 2 months ago, he walks out on me and our children, saying he needs time and space from everything. Well, that sounds horrible, Petra. Sorry you had to go through that. Priya says, what is the difference between I like you and I love you? Well, there's a lot. There's a lot that is different between that. And I like you means like, I'm interested in you. I enjoy hanging out with you. I enjoy spending time with you. And then there's like depths or almost intensities of emotions, right? And that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about like lust versus love. We're talking about depth, breadth of emotion, right? How many emotions do they have, right? I can see a puppy dog and say, hi, I like you. I can see a puppy dog and say, I love you, right? And what's the difference between that? One, it's a puppy, right? So we're not talking about romantic love, hopefully. And two, we're talking about like the intensity of the emotion. Like, I love this dog, right? Like, if I like this dog, it's a cool dog. But if I love this dog, it's like, I don't want this dog to go anywhere. I don't want to lose this dog. I don't want this dog to be hurt, all that kind of stuff. I really deeply care about this dog. From a romantic standpoint, it's really just a depth and intensity and breadth of emotion that he has for you and how he feels about you. And there's also kind of the play of him loving you versus being in love with you, which are two completely different things as well. Being in love with you means that he's like got this thing where he's just totally like enamored by you in a romantic sense. And loving you, where he's just loves you, means that he fully accepts you and loves you as a human being. I hope that kind of answered some of that. I know that's probably some of that probably wasn't what you're looking for, but there's kind of a lot of depth and nuance to the whole I love you, I like you kind of thing. And it's one of those things where getting overly caught up in the definitions probably isn't that valuable. The question that you want to ask yourself is, does this person like me? Do they actually like me as a human being, right? Because a lot of people fall in love, but they don't actually like each other. And so they're like in love with each other and they're like fighting to be with each other, and they're fighting each other to get their needs met and stuff because they love each other and they're romantically connected to each other, but they don't actually like each other as people. And so you don't want to be in a situation like that. You want to actually like the person that you're with. And you also want to love the person, as in you want to fully accept them and embrace them and uh, want to be with them as human beings. And you also want to have a depth of emotional intensity for that person as well, where you want to be romantically connected to them, you want to hook up with them, you want to you know get naked and slide your bodies against each other's bodies and play naked twister and all that kind of stuff together. Does that make sense, Priya? All right. So Shannon says, if you date a married man, remember you could wake up married to him and he still has a girlfriend besides you. Yep, exactly. Exactly. Takat Lavendiri. I don't know. Takat Lavendier. Lavendier says, what about when they hide their emotions for you in public, being too embarrassed to show you off in front of his friends? Something as simple as holding your hand but wanting you in private. Well, there could be different things here, right? One is there's this thing of like, does he, do people know that you guys are romantically seeing each other, right? Does his friends know? Does his family know? Do people outside the two of you know that you're romantically together? That, in my opinion, is what this should be about. It shouldn't be about, you know, he doesn't like public displays of affection, right? If he doesn't like to publicly display affection with you, that's kind of a preference thing, right? Is that a problem with you? You love to show publicly displays of affection, all that kind of stuff. Um, if that's what it's about, then that's something you guys can work on and deal with and all that kind of stuff. If it's about him not wanting other people to know that you're romantically involved with each other, that's a problem, because what it shows is that he's either embarrassed to be with you or that he's hiding you because there's something else going on where it's not acceptable for him to be romantically connected to you because he's married or has another girlfriend, or he just he doesn't look at you as somebody that he's proud to be with. And so if any of those kinds of things are going on, you want to stop that entire romantic situation completely in its tracks and find somebody new and let him know that you really like him, but that you're not going to be his dirty little secret, because no woman deserves to be a dirty little secret. No woman deserves to be hidden from the fact that you are together with a man and the guy doesn't want to let anybody know about it. It's not what you want. It's not a good start for a romantic relationship. Don't do it. Big red flag. Big red flag. Big red flag. Big red flag. Yep, 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 yep. Yep, yep, yep. Nancy says, why are men afraid to commit, especially if he knows he has a good woman? Well, lots of people, just to kind of throw this out there, lots of people, men and women, are afraid to commit right now. Like lots. I mean, huge, massive numbers, giant, massive numbers of men and women, both, are afraid of commitment right now. I hear men all the time complaining that women don't want commitment. They just want to sleep around. They just want to hook up with lots of people. And so that's a huge part of the dating industry, like the dating world, the dating society that we live in. And so there's that one part, right? It's that lots of people, men and women. And the reason, one of the big reasons for this is that so many people are getting hurt, right? We live in a different day and age than everybody used to live in, even 20 years ago. It's completely different these days. It's different than it was 30 years ago, certainly different than it was 50 years ago. And we're in an age when it's easier to cheat than ever before. It's more people are getting hurt than ever before. The marketplace for romance is bigger than it's ever been before. We have more people engaging in dating behaviors than ever before. We have more, it's easier for people who couldn't date before and would normally live their lives and be single and alone for their entire lives to date. It's easier for people that are abusive to, do more abuse, and people are smarter with lots of different technologies than they've ever been. And so what's happening is that more people are getting hurt than ever before, and more people are seeing that things aren't working in relationships than ever before. And so people are like, like I grew up, for instance, with, my parents got divorced when I was young, and then they both remarried. My mom has been through a couple of marriages, and all of them have been bad. Every one of them has been bad. And my dad is married, and they're in a horrible relationship, right? And so I go out in the dating world, and I, date somebody when I was in high school, and she cheats on me with a bunch of my friends, right? And then you're like, why would I want to do this? Why would I want to do any of this at all? Right? That's the first thing that comes up for you. And at least that's what came up for me. And then I go and get into the dating world, and you have to find out, as somebody that's been through that, just that's not even actually being in the dating world yet. I started in the dating world in like the 1990s, right? so so now I'm in the dating world, and it's like you have all these different experiences, and some of them are good and some of them are bad, and a lot of people are hurting. And so they go out and they date other people, but they've got a wall around themselves. And so they end up hurting other people because they don't let that person in. And so, they break things off with that person, all that kind of stuff. And, you get all these really challenging relationships. And so you got all these hurt people running around hurting other people. And then you've got this huge mass people being hurt and all that kind of stuff. And lots of people don't even believe in love anymore. And they don't even have any role models that are good relationship figures. So they don't know. And then they meet you, and you start wanting to date them. But the, last girlfriend that they had, cheated on them and stole their money and, kicked their dog and, called their grandma a bunch of names, and peed on the TV or whatever, right? And so you're like, okay, so what am I, like he's like, I don't know if she's lying to me, if this is really a good person, because he's a bad judge of character. The last 4 women that he's dated all cheated on him and, abused him and stuff because he's trauma bonded to him because he's got issues from his childhood and all that kind of stuff, right? And so there are a lot of people with issues, right? Like, there's a lot of issues going on out there, and a lot of reasons why people don't want to commit. And it's a challenge for a lot of people. And what people need to do is heal, because there's so much trauma going on, and there's so many people that have so many walls up, and they're not sure, right? They don't know. They're like, my cousin, for instance, got married and he got married to this woman that he'd known for, I think, like 10 years or something. They had been dating for 10 years, and he finally got married to her. And he said the day that they got married, she totally changed into a completely different person, right? And this isn't the first time I've heard this. I've heard it over and over and over and over again from people. Like, oh, we got into a relationship and he turned into a completely different person. I got into a marriage and she turned into a completely different person. Happens all the time. And so a lot of people are just really, really hesitant because they're like, I don't want any more pain, right? I don't want to be hurt anymore. So why would I get into this relationship? Why would I commit to somebody? who's probably going to hurt me sometime in the future because that's what their experience is of the past. And so there's a lot of that going on. And that's why a lot of people, even if he thinks you're a good woman, he might not want to commit to you. Or maybe there might even be other things. Like he doesn't want you to find out that he's not really a good man, right? Or whatever, right? Or maybe he just really enjoys what's going on right now. And he's like, if anything, messes with it, it's going to destroy it. And so let's just keep what we have because it seems really great, and so you can't get overly caught up in it, right? And if he's not going to commit, and that's fine, right? He has a choice. The only way that you want a man to commit to you is through choice, not through obligation, not through pressure, not through whatever. You want it to be his choice. And if it's choice that he's not going to get married to you or commit to you or whatever it is that you want, you have to decide whether he's worth it or not. Or which one's more important to you? Which one do you value more, the man or the relationship? That's a lot of what we've been talking about today. And a lot of women end up picking the man because they don't believe that they deserve to have the relationship that they want, which is why we often end with the Queen's mantra, because we want to change the way that you see yourself. We want to help you change your identity so that you see yourself as a valuable woman who deserves to have the relationship that you've always wanted to have in your life. And so just take a deep breath with me. Take a deep breath and breathe out. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. And then one last deep breath in and deep breath out. Just let it all go. Just let it all go. And today we're going to say the Queen's mantra like we do every time. And every time we say it, remember, you say it 3 times. Say it 3 times. Are you ready? Here we go. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable. I am worthy, and I deserve to be cherished. And I want you to leave this video today remembering that you do deserve to have the relationship that you've always wanted to have. Even if other people haven't given it to you before, even if there's a guy in your life right now who's treating you like an option or devaluing you, disrespecting you, just wanting to hook up with you and nothing more. He doesn't want to give you what it is that you want. You are still valuable. You are still a divine being. You are still worthy of having the relationship that you've always wanted to have. Always remember that. Don't let any man, don't let any woman, don't let anyone convince you that you're worth anything less than everything that you want. Don't let them convince you that you can't have a great relationship, that you don't deserve to have a man who loves you and cherishes you and sees how beautiful and special and amazing you are. Don't let anybody do that to you. You are worthy. Always remember that. That's it for this video. I'll speak with you again in the next one. And always remember, you are worth it. Have a good day, good night, good evening, wherever you are.